There we go. Okay, so now we are live. So hello everybody, welcome to the channel. So I have the opportunity to sit down with Dan from a system. The System Is Down, and I was actually a guest on his show a while ago. He invited me on, and we just talked about witchcraft and the occult. And I thought that you were very fair about that, and I really appreciate
Sure.
that because ironically enough, there's a lot of people who aren't fair. They,
Oh yeah.
they will twist and distort other people's words, and so I appreciate that fact. And also, I have respect for you also because you interviewed some Freemasons, and I felt again that you were very, you asked some tough questions, but you weren't, you weren't trying to set them up, and you weren't trying
Right.
to take them out of context or anything like that. So I really respect that too.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and just tell people a little bit about your channel and how it got created, and then get into the movie, and then we'll talk about some of these crazy conspiracies.
Sounds good.
So I'll turn it
Let's
over to
go
you.
wherever you want.
Okay.
I'm open. So,
All right.
um, yeah, I started this the podcast. The System Is Down. It really just started. Um, Friends and we would sit around, we'd have drinks and just chat about life and all the mysteries in the world. We would talk about conspiracies, politics, religion, all the things that a lot of people get turned off by because I honestly feel like a lot of people just shut down instantly when you bring up those topics because they have insecurity and because they just don't know the things and they're afraid that they're going to be asked a tough question about it. That's never what I'm there to do. I'm there to just explore and find out why people think the way they do. So I kind of started the podcast around that idea, and I didn't see it as like any sort of revolutionary, outlandish concept or anything. I was just like, these are the conversations I'm having. I want to explore the world, explore different avenues of thought, and I might as well record it while I'm at it. And it's given me the opportunity to talk to all sorts of people from all over the place. I've had on yourself, and I've had on like Juanita Broderick, rape accuser from Bill Clinton. Like she claims that she was raped by Bill Clinton. I've had on Kelly Jones, Alex Jones's ex-wife. I've had on David Thibodeau, Waco survivor, all sorts of different people. I've had on flat earthers and all sorts of wonderful, crazy, beautiful people. And I just enjoy, whether I agree with what people are saying or not, it's just a very simple, what should be a commonly accepted concept of I'm not here to try and disprove my guest. I'm here to figure out why the guest thinks the way that they do. Like I have a Christian background. I had you on. I wanted to talk about witchcraft, not because I wanted to convert you to Christianity, because I wanted to find out why did you come to the conclusion that you did. And it was a great conversation. I ended up making it a 2-parter episode, and I really enjoyed it. I think that you and I should start some sort of a sitcom called The Christian and the Witch or something like that. But and just to discuss life, because that's really all that matters.
Actually they did a show like that when they swapped housewives, and there was a Christian housewife, and I think she was more of a new ager than a witch.
Sure.
But they did this wife swap, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, maybe that would work.
I just think, like, especially, I think that the whole world is dealing with pride issues, no matter what your background is. I call out Christians just as much as anybody. Like, anybody who says, this is how the world works, and I know that this is how the world works, I mean, you're only lying to yourself. You're only doing a disservice to yourself if you're not being open-minded and trying to explore. Like, I went on a giant tirade and a rant on our 100th episode recently, and it's just like, I'm convinced that I have 5 fingers on this hand, but if I look around and dig around and find another finger, then given that new information, I have to accept that I was wrong all that time. And that's okay. That's just human. I'm all about just humbling yourself and being open to, I mean, you might be completely right about how the world works. Some Freemason might be right about how the world works. I don't know. I'm open to it. I don't come at it from I'm educated and I'm here to teach other people. I come at it from I'm dumb and I'm here to learn from other people. And if you guys want to learn along with me, then you're welcome to. So.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I do. I agree with you on that. I think that there's a lot less listening and discourse in you know, just in general, I think most people nowadays is kind of like, well, I have this position. If you don't agree with me, then, you know, that's it. And they kind of like
You're
write
evil.
them out of their life.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair. There are certain
Hmm.
people who hold certain ideals that I have absolutely no interest in talking with or
Sure.
discussing. It's like people who are in the Ku Klux Klan. I have no desire to talk to people like that. Once they
Sure.
get out of it, yeah, maybe we'll sit down and talk. But while they're actively in it,
Sure.
and I'm like, no, no, no,
Well,
I don't want to talk to you
personally,
about it.
I'd be open to it. Not
Okay.
that I would agree with a single word that they said, but why not? Why not show the world how wrong they are? Why not give them a platform to come out and spew their hate and filth and just be like, okay, that's why he thinks the way he does. Obviously, he's wrong, 100%. I don't have to support a single thing about him, but I'm curious to know how the hell you come to that conclusion,
Right.
and like, what does your brain have to be in order to think that one person is lesser than another person? I'm curious. I have You're not going to convince me that that's the case, but I'm still curious to know why your brain functions that way.
Mhm.
Probably
Yeah.
some sort of mental illness. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so I do agree with you. I think that we need to kind of sit down and talk about these things. And I think I even said this on your show before. I don't think everybody absolutely agrees 100% with everybody. If we sat down and talked with somebody for an extended period of time, we would find out that there are things that we agree on and there's things that
Hmm.
we disagree on, you know. Um,
Absolutely.
and so that's how I walk into every, you know, quote unquote online relationship, is like I already assume I'm not going to agree with this person.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, I just do. And if we
Hmm.
agree on certain things, that's great. But you
Yep.
know, there might be 99 other things that we don't agree on, and that's okay. I don't have to like block them or write them out of my
Sure.
life or whatever. You know, it's
Yeah.
just that on that particular topic we disagree with.
Right.
uh,
Yeah, and we
uh
we live in a time where everything is just black and white, polar opposites
mhm,
on in
right.
everything. It's like you're either a Christian or you're the devil. You're either a Republican or you're a Democrat. And if you are those, you're the furthest left or furthest right. And we have to assume that the person you disagree with, they're not just wrong, they're your enemy and they are out to destroy you. No, that's most of the people are not your enemy. Like the
Mhm,
vast majority, there might be a sliver of people that are out to harm you in the world, but person you're talking with online, the person you're disagreeing with, even if you're having a heated argument, they're still not your enemy. They don't want you to die if it was put in front of them. Uh, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are some people, but I choose to think that, for the Republican, the Democrat is not, they're not trying to destroy America no matter how much you shout it. They're doing what they think is best. They've gone through different things in their life. They come from a different background, a different society, a different culture. They've had a million different variables put into their lives, and they came to a conclusion for what they think is best for the country. You disagree, but that doesn't mean that they're trying to burn it down. That doesn't mean that they're trying to kill you. They it might come to that. They might end up burning it down, but that doesn't mean that that they have a malicious intent in voting blue. Who cares?
mhm. Yeah, yeah. And so so I know that you are working on you're working on a documentary or a movie, or what are you calling
Yeah.
this?
Yep. I'm working on a documentary about
Okay.
the moon landing hoax theories. So there's that.
Okay. All right.
Would you
And
like
I,
me to explain more?
well, yeah, I mean, because we were talking a little bit earlier about this right before we
Yeah.
we went online. So
Sure.
yeah, go ahead, expand more, and then I'll jump in if I
Sure.
have questions.
Sure. I've been wanting to make a documentary for a while, and I've just kind of thrown around different ideas of what it was going to be, what I was going to make it about, and this just seemed like one of the like I said, we dig into all sorts of different conspiracy theories, including like flat Earth and hollow Earth and all sorts of crazy things. But I could talk about those, but I'm never even gonna come close to convincing a globe model believer that the Earth is flat. I'm never going to come close to that because I'm not smart enough. Even like there's some smart flat Earthers out there, believe it or not, who could probably convince you of that. But that's not my hill to die upon at this moment in my life. Um, I I don't know. I chose the moon landing because it's kind of, well, we're coming up to 50 years since it'll be the 50-year anniversary of Apollo 11, and I just thought, this is one that if you dig into it, there's a lot of reasons to think that there's some shady doings going on with the moon, and not the moon, but the moon landings. And I just started digging into it, and there's actually a lot more than I thought. And I'm not really making this documentary with the intention of just saying fact after fact after fact. This is why it's fake. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. Like, I want to go back to what documentaries initially were. The idea was to explore both sides of an argument and try and just lay things out and let people decide for themselves. I want to make it informative and humble and entertaining at the same time.
All right. Let me stop you there for a second. So I'm curious, and I think I asked you this before we went live. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but what is the single, like, if you could take all the information that you've taken about the moon landing itself, because you mentioned that you question that you're not 100% on that.
Sure.
So and also, if I misrepresent your argument, please let me know. But so you question the moon landing, and so I'm wondering, what is the strongest piece of evidence that has led you to really question it?
Well, I would say the thing that started poking around in my brain first was probably the whole Van Allen radiation belt argument. Like, there's supposedly radiation belts that, before leading up to the first successful mission, we always said, hey, this is it's gonna be really dangerous, we're gonna have trouble with this. Basically 4-year time span, we kept going up to the moon, and we didn't talk about Van Allen radiation belt at all. And then immediately after, now NASA says that they can't go back to the moon because of these dangerous belts of radiation. That's not like the end all argument, because I wouldn't know about the radiation belts if NASA didn't tell me. So I have to trust that NASA is telling the truth about these radiation belts in order for me to think that, yeah, in order for, like, I have to trust NASA to a certain degree in order to use that argument. But it's just the fact that NASA, what they have said in their explorations, doesn't add up with what they've said in the past and in the present, and like, things just don't add up. And that's just a little bit of it. And there's a great documentary out there by Bart Sibrel. If you're familiar with the dude who got punched in the face by Buzz Aldrin, that's the guy. It's all over YouTube. You can look it up. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, but, I've seen that clip. Yeah.
Yeah, he's made a couple documentaries. Two of the biggest ones are A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, which has a great amount of craziness in it. And he also made Astronauts Gone Wild, where in the second one he tracks down every single man that supposedly went to the moon, and he kind of corners them. He's a little bit shady about it, but he did what he had to do to get these people to talk. Excuse me. And one of the guys in particular, I don't remember which one it was, but he's just talking to him. He's pretending to be like this news person who's just reporting on the moon landings, and he asks him, "Well, what about the Van Allen radiation belts? How'd you guys navigate that?" And the guy says, "Oh, I don't think we went up far enough to encounter the Van Allen radiation belts." And Bart's like, "They're like 1,000 miles up." And he's like, "Oh, well, we must have encountered them. We must have just went straight through them. I didn't even notice." It's like, you're an astronaut, and this is like deadly radiation that you're going through, and you didn't bother to dot your T's and cross your I's there. You didn't bother to look into the radiation that you're going through. Like, the fact that this astronaut seems to know nothing about this very life-threatening variable and conundrum that now NASA says that they can't get through, that seems like there's some shady stuff going on there.
Okay, all right. And so let's play this scenario out.
Sure.
So if it is a hoax, and if they actually didn't go to the moon, and for whatever reason that is, let's say radiation belts, or they just didn't have the technology, or they couldn't get enough lift to escape the Earth's gravitational force, or gravitational hold, I should say. Why would they spend billions? Well, let's not say billions. Let's say millions of dollars. I don't exactly. I'm just pulling this out of my
billions
ass.
Based on like what it would be, what would it equate to now. It probably was about billions.
Yeah. So they spend a lot of money on creating the creating the first rocket that went to the moon, a lot of fuel, a lot of investment, a lot of people. I mean, NASA had like what, at least 20, 30, 40 people in that room, each one in charge of various things, observing it and keeping track of the trajectory and all this stuff. So there's a lot of people involved. Not to mention just the scientists who worked on the project, and then the scientists who, then the health
400,000 people worked
professionals.
on it, to be
Huh?
exact. About 400,000 people worked on it, to be exact. Yeah.
Okay, so 4,000 people. So that's a lot of
400,000.
people. So what makes you? How did they cover this up so well that
Sure.
people on YouTube 50 years later began to question it?
Sure. I know. There's a lot of questions, and here's the thing: a lot of people look at, if you say, I don't think that man has walked on the moon, people look at it as, oh, it was a hoax from the beginning. Like NASA set out for this gigantic hoax, this gigantic cover-up. I don't think that that's what it was. I think that they were legitimately trying. They were pouring money, hundreds of thousands, billions of dollars probably, into this project to beat Russia to the moon. They wanted to do it. They planned to do it. And then when they found out that they couldn't pull it off, they said, well, Kennedy set this 10-year goal, and we have to show that we are a military force to be reckoned with. I mean, it's America. We can't be failures. I mean, this was around the time of Vietnam and the Cold War and all this stuff. We can't let everybody down. We've been putting propaganda out for years and years and years. Let's just tell everybody we did it. And then, I mean, like all the money that went into it, it did go into it. I legitimately think that they were working on a rocket. And the 400,000 people that worked on it, it's not like you say 400,000 people worked on this mission and this rocket. It's not like they had this gigantic warehouse and 400,000 people come and clock in the office every day to work on a rocket. These are like subcontracted companies that are all doing their own job, which they were doing intentionally, trying to make this thing happen. There only has to be a handful of people that say, we can't do this. We're gonna have to pretend like we did it.
So okay. So on all these people who are involved, and so all these people somehow, and I'm absolutely positive that as this project is unfolding and they the rocket goes up, they must have done something with the rocket. How did they get rid of the rocket?
Well, they could have flown it out into the ocean, basically, and like another very strange piece of evidence, I would say, to point to this being some shady business dealings. We don't have the telemetry data anymore. We don't, like, people who are questioning this stuff, they go to NASA and they say, can we see the telemetry data? Can we see you tracked the heart rates of the astronauts, you tracked the locations where it went, what times, everything else? They don't have it. They lost it. They destroyed it. They don't know what happened to it. The initial footage, I mean, we have copies of it, but the initial reels of tape that this was filmed on, it's gone. They say that they've taped over it or they lost it. Like, they have a couple different explanations. The documentation for how they put together the capsule, there was a specific company that worked on that. I don't remember the name offhand, but people have gone to them and asked them, hey, where
Boeing?
Can we just, it could be. People have gone to this company and said, hey, can we just dig through the documents? Can we see like how this was done? Like, these are simple things where there's no way you could have lost these things. There's no way you could have just thrown these things out. But they say, well, we're not a museum. We're not a storage facility. We didn't have space for it. We threw them out. Like, well, sure, you're not a museum, but there's plenty of museums that would have killed to have that. You just threw them away. And
sorry, Dan. Hold on one second,
Sure.
because I think this is great information, but it's not really. It's kind of going away from the question a little bit. So the rocket we saw, a lot of people witnessed this. It was on television. They saw the rocket go up. Okay. And then what happened? So if the rocket never escaped our atmosphere and got past the gravitational hold and went up to the moon, what happened to the rocket? Where, what did they just like? Did they have like a giant, a sky thing cover that they just put over the rocket and said, okay, well, now we got to wait, 24 hours or however long it was until the capsule itself, the rest of the rocket's gone. It's somehow they disappeared that too. So all they had was the capsule that just kind of, floated back down and went into the water at a set period of time. There's no way that rocket could have held enough fuel to hover for that amount of time. You know what I mean? And then all the fuselage and all the stuff that would have been used up would have dropped back down to the earth, and who knows where that fell. So I'm just curious, how do you think that they did that?
I'm not, I can't say 100%. I'm still like, as far as this documentary goes, like I'm open-minded and I'm humble enough to say I don't know when I don't know something. I don't know necessarily what the explanation is even for that. I would say that it's entirely possible that, well, the people that say we did not walk on the moon, they're not necessarily saying we haven't gone into Earth's like atmosphere into like I think that the furthest we had gone up was like 400 miles or something initially, and we've got into orbit, in low Earth orbit or whatever, and like Sputnik, all that stuff, Yuri Gagarin, the Russian guy who did that, all that, sure. So assuming that we can put somebody up that high, it doesn't mean that we can go 36,000 miles on the first try and pull it off without really trying before. I think that it's very possible that they could have gone up into low Earth orbit and, I don't know, dumped the rocket somewhere and brought the capsule back down. They could have been rotating, or they could have been going around the Earth. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's even theory. I'm open to exploring all the things, but I mean, there's a lot of possibilities for how they could have done that if they wanted to.
Okay. So, all right. Okay. So they may have gone to that point where it's outside of the gravitational pull of the Earth, and sort of like we're still in the orbit of the planet, the gravitational field of the planet. And so you believe that they got that far, but they didn't make it a little further to the moon.
It's not really a little further. It's like 400,000.
Yeah, I know. Relative,
400 miles
exactly.
to 36,000. Like it's
right. I'm looking like at the
astronomical
universe, because if you look at the universe and the moon, it's like they're like very tight together, even though it's like built. It's like I forget how many miles. It's pretty far from the Earth. I actually don't know the figure off the top of my head.
It's I believe it's 36,000 as opposed to the 400 that we had gone. So it's like I'm not like, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much further, but as far as what man has been able to accomplish up to that point, it's a ridiculously far distance that like we didn't send monkeys, we didn't send anything else to make sure that we could survive this trip or these radiation conundrums. We're just like, throw the men up there and first try, nailed it, got it. All right, bring them back, let's do it 6 more times in the span of 4 years under the Nixon administration. Nailed it, pulled it off, can't do it anymore. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Well, yes, but I think I understand what they're talking about, that they can't do it anymore. And I saw that link that you posted in there was a link that you had I think you had posted, or somebody had posted, because I got into a conversation about this with somebody, and they linked me to a scientist who was talking about they can't go to the moon anymore, which I thought was interesting. But I think what they meant was it takes so much. It's just not feasible. It's just not possible to do it. It's just not worth it. They don't have the money. They don't have the spending. They would have to rehire all these people, and it would just be a pain in the ass. I think that's what he actually meant. So what do you think about Endeavor, or you know, the robots, like for example, I think it's Freedom or Endeavor, one of those two that went to actually there were a couple of drones or robots that went to Mars. What do you think
Mhm.
about that? Do you think we never made it to Mars either?
I think it's very possible that we haven't. Yes. Mars is not my current digging.
You're working your way through the solar system. I understand.
Yes,
Okay, all
I'm
right.
getting there. I'm still
Gotcha.
at the moon, but
All right.
I think it's possible that they put rovers and probes on the moon. Yeah. I, some of the biggest things that I find really interesting about the theory is just the idea of putting humans through that kind of torture to get them to
Mhm.
just walk on the moon and bring them back. We
It
did
is.
it.
It's very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
Once you leave the atmosphere, you are open to the radiation from the sun, which is
Hmm.
very disturbing.
Right.
Micro meteorites. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so okay, all right. So you think we sent robots to Mars, but just you
Possibly.
don't think, huh?
Possibly. Sure.
Okay, so okay, possibly. Excuse me, possibly.
Yeah.
I
I'm not
misrepresented you.
convinced that
Sorry.
we. I think it's very like once you don't trust NASA on one thing, it's fine to just say maybe. It's not my battle to fight whether or not they put a robot on Mars. It doesn't matter to me yet. I might have a reason to make another documentary proving that, or trying to prove that. Maybe we did. I don't know. Sure, it's okay. I'm okay with accepting the idea that we have put a robot on Mars. I don't think that changes this theory at all necessarily.
Hmm. Okay, you um let me see. What else was I going to say? Oh, so you also all these people who are under this, I don't know, there this misconception or the all the people who were present for that moon,
Sure.
that first moon launch where Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, I think. I
Hmm.
don't know if he was on the first one. I don't know too
Yeah, he
much
was.
about the moon landing, to be quite
Sure.
honest. But I know that when they got to the moon, you know, they walked around the moon and then they came back, and you know, all these people were involved. And I'm
Hmm.
assuming that if this was a hoax and they brought the capsule to, you know, the edge of space, and then
Hmm.
I don't know, somehow just let the capsule come back down and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere after a certain period of rotations, you know, in
Yeah.
the Earth. Um, so all of these people, not a single one of them found out, you know, like got clued in, like, oh, wait a second, this is all bullshit, and
Sure.
they remained silent. And so they were just complicit in covering this up. And what do you think was the what is the goal of why do you think
Hmm.
NASA would have went to all of this trouble to keep all these people silent, to make all this money, to waste this equipment, to have these astronauts perpetuate a lie for the rest of their life with no
Hmm.
guarantee that they're ever going to keep their mouths shut, because
Sure.
chances are they might get pissed off with somebody and then rat them out, you know, like, oh,
Yeah.
well, you know, the moon landing was a hoax and I got all the proof here. We've never had
Sure.
any of that. So to me, I'm curious, how and why do you think they would have done this?
Hmm.
Well, maybe not how, but why? Why do you think they
Sure.
would have gone to all that trouble?
Um, like I said, every leading up to this, like if you look into it, America really needed a win. America, we'd been saying that we were going to do this for 10 years. 10 years, Kennedy said that we were going to do this. Then Kennedy lost his head. And then we moved on to, like, there was propaganda saying, when we go to the moon, this is what's going to look like. When we go to the moon, Disney, all these cartoons, everything. We were going to the moon. We insisted that we were going to the moon. So uh, for a governmental power to say, that thing that we kept promising you, we actually we we can't do it. We actually cannot physically pull this off, and we're dumping money down the toilet. Your money, your taxpayer dollars, are being dumped down the toilet for this thing, and we actually can't. We can't give you anything. I feel like it's a pride issue. I feel like we had to say, hey guys, we're still an authority. Look how great we are. You need to continue to follow us into the future because we've got you covered. We are the American government and we know what we're doing. Um, as to how they would have kept all these people quiet, I don't, like I said, I don't think that many people, it, I don't think that many people would have had to have known. I think that,
Well, you actually mentioned earlier that you said about 400,000 or 40,000.
yeah,
About 400,000.
400,000.
So let's say 10% of those people. So that's what, 4,000?
I think that it could be 20 to 40 people that
20 to
are the
40
only.
people.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that could be all that would have to know about this because you if you assume that everybody else, well, if you look at like Enron or so, like some of these big companies where there's shady business dealings going on, all the people underneath them aren't complacent. They're not
You mean
all. They didn't
Enron,
all get together. What?
Enron that got caught
Yeah,
lying? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
right. Or Volkswagen when they had their carbon emissions scandal and everything. It's not like the guy on the assembly line, the janitor, and everybody else. Every single person involved was like they all got together and they said, "Okay, we're gonna pull this off. And we're gonna do it together." And everybody said, "Yay, we're gonna be bad. Let's go." No, it was like 2 to 3 people that sent the orders down to this is how you're gonna do this, and everybody else just goes through the assembly line and does their job. And as far as they know, they're just doing everything right because they have to work on this tiny little fraction of a gigantic thing that they can't, see the big picture of. I think that it's very possible that in the moon landing situation, it could have been maybe 20 to 40 people. It could have been the astronauts who were told, you're going to be heroes for the rest of your life if you do this. We can't. They brought them in. They said, we can't do this, but we can make you guys heroes and we can make you guys famous for the rest of your life. Now, you just got to play along. You got to go with this because that's all we can do. Um, I, I don't think that it's necessarily this gigantic nefarious cover up because it's just America being scared of looking stupid, like quite frankly. Um, and as far as why it would be only need to be that amount of people, like even the people who are monitoring it, there are ways. If you send a feed back from the moon, which is almost laughable that in 1969 we sent a live stream from the moon, 36 million miles away, back to Earth, and said, "Hey, look how great we are." Um, I feel like there would. I'm not a scientist. I don't work for NASA, obviously, but I'm sure that they have the technology. The people, the higher ups, would be able to reroute the signal and play a pre-recorded tape and say bounce it off satellite and say, "Here, show this to everybody." And they're doing their job. They're not the people that are receiving the signal are just doing what they're told, and they're assuming that that's how it goes.
Well,
So,
there is a rate of the radio waves. There is, like you can measure the speed of light. That's like the fastest
sure,
thing that we know of is speed of light. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. And there's speed
hmm
of sound, and then there's the speed of radio waves. And I honestly don't know the
sure,
speed off the top of my head. I had a friend of mine who was an engineer at Cal Berkeley who he he could figure all this stuff out, and like the he could figure all this out like in his
hmm
head. But so you can estimate the speed of radio waves coming back. So you send a signal, it takes X amount of time to get to
hmm
the moon, and then a signal coming back. Same thing with rover, the one that's on Mars. They send a signal to Mars, and after a certain period of time, not a very long time, but it's actually very fast, comes back, and then that's how they
hmm
communicate. So that I'm just going to be honest with you, Dan. I think that you say that you are open-minded
hmm
to stay neutral, but your body language and the way that you talk,
I'm
whenever it
100%
gets
biased. I
right,
have
right,
an
when
opinion because I'm a human.
absolutely, absolutely, and of course,
hmm
everyone's allowed to their opinion. But what I'm saying is,
Sure.
if you're telling me that you are open
hmm
to new information, if you are open to
Sure.
challenging it, I'm telling you that I'm looking at your body language and I'm hearing it in your voice. It gets defensive. It begins to crack. And that's when people get defensive. And I understand that. Like people ask me questions about, do you think magic exists? And it's like, I kind of
Mhm.
like start getting a little flustered and, yeah, my voice will crack because
Sure.
I'll get defensive about that. So yeah, I know you say that you're open to new evidence, but I keep giving you new evidence and and then you kind of fall back on like, well, yeah, I'm still open. It's kind of like, well, here's some new evidence.
Sure. Well, I can give you a lot of evidence to the
Okay.
contrary.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. And like, I'm not here to debate anything. I am open to it. Body language set aside. I can turn my camera off if it helps, but no.
No, I mean, I observe people
Sure.
and, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't care if I'm wrong. That's perfectly fine with me. Like I am open to the evidence, but like you even say, you don't know that much about what
Right.
happened, and that's kind of my point with the whole documentary. It isn't to say we didn't go to the moon, we didn't go to the moon, we didn't go to the moon. There are great documentaries out there. I've got it around here somewhere. Massimo Mazzucco, Italian filmmaker, he made a film called American Moon. It's like 3.5 hours long, and it's not like your typical YouTube 3.5 hour conspiracy documentary in air quotes, where it's like repeat the evidence, repeat, repeat, repeat. Now play it backwards. Now slow it down. Now put some X-Files music behind it. It's not that. It's like fact after fact after fact after fact, just looking. And he gives both sides. He says, this is what people say is the explanation for. Like he even brings in like MythBusters. They had a whole episode on why moon landing deniers are crazy, and he brings all that, and he's like, well, this is how they could be wrong. So it's just kind of like open exploration. But my point with the documentary isn't necessarily to say to do what he did and show all the stuff, pile it on. It's to just be honest. Like I do think that it probably was faked, and I could be wrong. But I just hate that that if you say this to anybody, if you say, based on what I've seen, what I've experienced, and the evidence that I've looked at, I think that it could be faked. It's not that big of a leap. People will call you retarded. They'll say that you're stupid. They'll scream and shout and yell at you. It's like, okay, well, what do you know about the moon landing? What do you know about the official story? Do you know how many times men has supposedly walked on the moon? Do you know when it was? Do you know the time frame? Do you know who was the president at the time? Do you know all these things? People don't know anything about it, but they're so quick to cut you down and say you're stupid, you're retarded. Like I'm looking into it. That's all. I'm not even saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm looking into it, and you're not even willing to do that. So there's that. So some of the other things that are really interesting around it are like uh, Massimo Mazzucco he talked to a bunch of photographers, like really high level photographers, that magazines, all these different things. He showed them like the way the shadows and the lighting doesn't really make sense if it's not like studio lighting. If it's this gigantic moon and gigantic sun is your only light source, like just the lighting, the shadows don't add up. There's a bunch of weird things going on there, like shadows going in different directions. Which, if you have the sun as your only light source, how are the shadows going in different directions? A lot of people.
I think I could be wrong about this. I'm sure somebody else could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you would have is essentially the Earth would become a giant moon. So you can see the reflect. I mean, that's why we see the moon, is because it's the sun that's actually reflected in the moon. So
Sure.
maybe it was the reflection of the sun from the Earth. There's or from somewhere else, and I don't even know if they could in space, if they could actually be exposed to the sun like front on. I think they would have to be on the dark side of the moon. I mean, I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I mean, it was light. They weren't on the dark side, to
Okay.
my knowledge. So yeah. And just okay. So like the fact that we did it, 6 missions, 12 men, in such a short span of time. I find really suspect. I find it really suspect that it was all under the Nixon administration, which we all know how honest that man was known for being. I mean, he was an arrogant bastard from my understanding. So why is it a hard stretch to think that maybe Nixon was like an arrogant bastard and said, "Hey, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna tell them
We're
that
gonna
we did it."
fool the entire world. Gotcha.
Yeah. Do you know anything about like Warner von Braun or Operation Paperclip or anything like that?
Operation Paperclip?
Yeah.
What is there another nickname for Operation Paperclip?
Not to my knowledge. It is right after
Oops.
or with the Nazis. We brought some Nazi scientists over. Warner von Braun was a legitimate Nazi, to my understanding. He wasn't just like a dude who was caught up in the whole Nazi stuff. He was legitimate Nazi. Rumor has it that he would hang the 5 least productive Jews outside of his office every day. We brought him over, and he was like the head of NASA because he was a Nazi scientist. He was a genius. We brought him over. He was head of NASA. Most people like these aren't things that we don't learn in our history books, but it's like you hear about things like that, and it's just like maybe there's something to this, because why don't we talk about the fact that Nazis were here running NASA? So there's just a bunch of little weird things like that raise some red flags for me.
So hold on one second. Okay, so you're saying that that this not there was there was a scientist that after World War II
Scientist.
they worked for NASA.
Yeah, we brought them over and we employed them because, I mean, Nazis, they did some bad stuff, yeah, but they were also geniuses in a lot of technological ways. So we brought them over here and we gave them jobs because they were geniuses.
Well, I completely disagree with you that they were geniuses. I think
they were technologically they were geniuses. not in their worldviews, obviously, but they were doing some that their technology was pretty advanced. So we brought them over and took advantage of that.
Yeah, I disagree with you on that. I don't think that they were. I don't think they were technologically advanced. I think that, I mean, it doesn't take too much brain power to gather up people and shoot them and throw them in the mass graves. But anyhow, so you think this Nazi scientist came over? I guess, smuggled him out of Germany, and somehow the avoided. If he was a high-ranking Nazi official and a scientist, and somehow he managed to escape the Nuremberg trials, and nobody batted an eye and said, "Hey, wait a second, why is America taking this Nazi who was responsible for all this horrible scientific experiments, and now he's working for NASA?" Nobody said anything. And I'm also going to look into this, but my spidey sense is going off a little bit, like, bullshit.
That's fine. That's what I thought when I first heard it too.
And I'll look into it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not just me saying this. This is history. This is what happened. Operation Paperclip is a declassified thing. It's not even a conspiracy. It's a thing that we did.
So you're not talking about MK Ultra?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But yeah, Warner von Braun. I'm looking him up on Wikipedia right now because, like, I mean, I'll be honest enough to say that, like, this documentary isn't out. It's not like I have all the information. I'm still doing some digging. I'm still doing some research. I don't know all the things. I've heard other people talk about Warner von Braun. I haven't looked up the history and the information for myself, so I have some digging to do as well. And
I apologize. My train of thought is sometimes all over the place. But how exactly did we get onto this Nazi scientist? What was the impetus for that?
Well, I was just pointing out different pieces of information that make me like, maybe we were hiding something here, because nobody knows about Operation Paperclip either. So if we are able to bring Nazi scientists over here to work for NASA and employ them, then maybe we have the human ability to be arrogant enough to fake the moon landing and cover it up. So another thing that a lot of people go to is, we didn't have the technological ability to film it, make it look so real. It would have taken a giant sound studio, all this stuff. If we were actually to fake it. Um, so it doesn't actually have to be a giant sound studio. Stanley Kubrick for 2001: A Space Odyssey at the time was working on uh, a method of filming that used a silk screen. It's called front screen projection. It's where you have your actors in a small studio, then you have this very reflective material in front of them that you are projecting this vast scenery onto. And from what I've seen, almost all of, if not all of the footage and the images, the pictures, and everything that we have of these missions, you can see that there's a line, there's a divider between the foreground and the background, which if you look at 2001: A Space Odyssey, you can see there's always the line show where you can actually see the difference between what's in a studio and what is being projected. And there's a lot of people who think that because of that, that Stanley Kubrick was actually a part of making this film, making this hoax, pulling it off. And there's a lot of clues and everything. There's a documentary out there called Room 237. I think that's what it's called. It's all about The Shining, how Stanley Kubrick put in little different clues of like alluding to him being involved in faking the moon landings, and in Eyes Wide Shut, there's some more as well. His final movie before he died. So just some strange stuff.
So okay, now this part is nothing new to me. I've heard this before, that people believe because Stanley Kubrick met with NASA, and NASA was wondering about how they can film certain things, and Stanley Kubrick, they talked with him. Somehow they believe that somehow because he talked with NASA that he was in cahoots with them and created this whole elaborate moon walk landing thing. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like more people involved. Now you have, unionized workers who are on the set. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to be like behind the scenes in one of these, when they film like a sitcom, but I had the opportunity when I lived in Burbank for a while. And they shoot a show over a week, and they change everything. It takes a lot, but there's a lot of people that just stand around. There's a lot of people standing around on their phones or just chatting or drinking coffee or whatever, and they're there for a very long time. So all of these people now we have more people that are keeping them.
Well, the Stanley Kubrick thing, it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's necessary to pull this off. That's another thing. NASA, they had the ability to pull this off. There were simulators. They had special cameras. Like they had a complete replica, a plaster replica of the moon surface. They had sent probes up, and they created a replica. They had a camera that could zoom all the way into it, and they had simulated. They had basically faked the moon landing long before they decided to fake the moon landing, because they put their astronauts through these simulations and filmed it all, and it all looks to the general public looks real. They had the ability to do it with or without Stanley Kubrick, I believe. And the Stanley Kubrick thing, I just find strange and interesting, and another possibility. So it's not like a necessary piece of the puzzle.
Okay, and what about the reflector that they left on the moon?
The reflector could easily be put there by probes. The reflector is not a person. My biggest interest is whether or not men can put themselves through that kind of torture to go to the moon, and why. I don't think that it's impossible to put a robot on the moon, and a robot could easily leave a reflector on the moon as well.
Okay, so now, because I think we spent a lot of time on the moon, and I actually want to talk about some of those things with you. But let's reverse roles for a second. Tell me what you think is the weakest. Well, let me rephrase this. But if you could come from the perspective of that proving that the moon landing was real, what do you think is like the strongest piece of evidence to support that the moon landing was real? Like we actually had people who walked on the moon.
Sure, that's a great question.
Because you're going to have to, because I assume you're going to be presenting both sides of
Yeah,
this argument,
I plan
right?
to. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, hmm. Well, I mean, common sense is the everybody's go-to argument. Of course, we did it. I mean, that's the most used argument, which is not an argument at all. Just with the government, who we don't trust most of the time. We trust them on this. Like, if you ask the general person, do you trust your government? They would probably say no. But in this situation, the only thing I'm asking is, is it possible that your government lied here? I mean, the biggest argument that we went is really just we're told that we went. We saw it. We saw it on TV. Um, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why people are so vehemently, adamantly convinced and angry and defensive of it. I can't. I would like to
But you, it
explore that
sounds like
more.
you're kind of wobbling actually back
I'm
towards
trying to think of a good answer to your
towards
question, because
supporting
this is
that it
something
didn't
that
happen.
it's a very good question. And
It is.
I want to ponder it for a while. And
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of the point of the documentary is I'm trying to explore why people like what their best argument is. I'm not
Mhm.
entirely sure. So I can't give you a great answer right off the top of my head, because that's kind of the journey that I'm going on.
Okay, well that's all right. I just thought in your research that
Sure.
because it sounds like it sounds like you're doing your homework
Sure.
on this, and you're looking into your. It sounds like you're really exploring this issue. So I was just curious if you had explored this area yet and really
Mhm.
looked at it from, well, maybe it is real. How,
Sure.
why would they, so I was just curious, like your thought process, if you had actually started to
Sure.
kind of explore the
Right.
affirmative side that we did actually get to the moon. So I was just
Yeah.
curious if you had gotten to that point yet. It sounds like
Yeah.
maybe you're sort of getting there.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, they said that we went there and we saw them walk on. We saw the footage. We saw it happen. So I mean, that's all you need to know to believe it. You saw it. You can just
Believe
accept
us
it.
or else.
Like, look at the footage. We did it. Obviously, we did. But maybe we didn't. So yeah, the best argument is what we saw, what we were shown. In my opinion, that's really all you need to accept it. If you don't feel like questioning it, then that's fine. I don't hold it against anybody. I enjoy it. I enjoy exploring it. And I like to bring people along on my journey of exploration. So
Okay. All right. So now do you have a projection for when, like, do you have a timeline of when you want to release this documentary, and are you going to release it on YouTube or?
I would love to have it ready to go by the anniversary, which is the 50-year anniversary would be July, end of July this year. I would love to have it done by then, but I'm not setting an official release date because this is my first documentary. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to force it just because of some date with meaning or something. Like, I would rather
Gotcha.
have it be as good as it can be. I want to give it all the credit that it deserves and make it what it needs to be. And if it takes longer, it takes longer. But I would love to have it out by then. But it will probably eventually be on YouTube. I'm selling it as DVDs. You can pre-order it and all that stuff right off the bat. And you can pre-order digital copies. I'm making the soundtrack. I'm working with a guy on a soundtrack and everything. Like, I'm trying to do it as legitimately as I possibly can. And eventually, probably I'll throw it up on YouTube, because I'm not here to make money off of it or anything. I just want to explore, and I think it's important for the next generation of people to just question things and look at things. Whether we went to the moon or not doesn't really matter that much, but we live in a society and a culture where we're just like fighting with each other, and you can't, like, if you disagree with somebody, they're stupid, and that's all you need to know, is that they're stupid. You don't have to have an argument. You don't have to have a reason for why you think the way you do. You can
But
just
I
say
would
that they're
actually,
stupid and go about your day.
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I
Sure.
actually would disagree with you about that. I think it's actually very important. I think that if, like, let's say that people find out that this moon landing hoax,
Hmm.
let's just call it that, or let's just say that people find out that we never walked on the moon, they find
Sure.
out it's a hoax. I think people would be very pissed. I think they
Yes.
would be incredibly pissed. I think they would be very angry, and I think that a
I
lot of
think it's
people would
very
have.
important too.
Yeah, I
But
think people.
in the
I
grand
think.
scheme of things, there's in the bigger picture, yeah, it sucks, but
Yeah.
who cares? I care more about people than whether or not we walked on the moon. But yes, in the grand in a small picture, yeah, it's extremely important. And if it is a hoax, then definitely people need to know about it. But
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, I think it's more important that people are open-minded and loving enough to talk to people who have differing opinions. I think that that's the more important thing here.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying that if people did find out, I think that they would be
Mhm.
very upset, and I think a lot of
Oh yeah.
people would. They would their their entire reputation is on the line, and
Hmm.
I'm talking about their professional and their who they are. I mean, like if
Sure.
Buzz Aldrin was lying about this all the time, I
Hmm.
mean that's yeah. I mean, I would lose absolute respect for him, and just I mean, it would change my complete. It
Sure.
would it would really change my worldview greatly. I mean, I would be very angry. I'd be very mistrustful. So
Sure.
there's a lot of severe consequences for if this was exposed to be a fraud, which
Hmm.
I don't know. I'll uh, I'll wait to judgment so
Sure.
later on, but I'm absolutely convinced that it was not.
That's
I
fine.
mean, it was we did go to the moon. I
Sure.
don't believe that we faked any of this. I think it was all legitimate. I think it was very out in the open, and I think that there's plenty of evidence that I don't have the capacity to understand. But just because I don't understand the evidence doesn't mean there is no evidence.
Sure.
It just means that I'm too fucking stupid to understand it. That's all it
Sure.
means. And this is actually something that I come across very often in conspiracy theories where people just they don't know, so they just make
Right.
something up, or
Right.
they heard somebody else say it, or there was a video that they saw, or they read
Sure.
somewhere, or they heard somewhere, and that's their evidence, and they just use that to fill in the gaps.
Absolutely.
Um, so, but anyhow, you ready to move on to the next topic?
Wherever you want to
Get
go, we
off the
can go.
moon.
Off the moon. I will say that we are doing an Indiegogo for the documentary that you can find at moonmythlegend.com, because the documentary is going to be called The Myth, the Legend, which I was very surprised nobody's taken that name, and I'm very happy with that. But the
Now,
documentary is
now,
called.
do you see any negative consequences to, like,
Sure.
let's say, creating a documentary that, th- let's say that the moon landing was real. Let's say that all these people, they were absolutely honest. They were being professional. It was
Sure.
transparent. Everything was by the books. We got to the moon. We walked on the moon. We
Hmm.
left the moon. We went back to the moon. Let's say this is all legitimate, and your documentary comes out and it has convinced quite a few people that this is false, that this is not true. And now they're very angry. They're very upset with the government. Do you see any negative ramifications for spreading this type of, or revealing this type of information to people? Do you think there's any negative consequences that could possibly happen from this?
Of course. I mean, anything that any choice you make in your day-to-day life could, even the what you think is the best thing, it could have negative consequences, of course. Um,
But that would
but
be true, whatever it was. Like, okay, so there's truth.
Mhm.
Can't deny that. There's objective truth. And
Sure.
then people have subjective truths, but
Sure.
there's an objective truth. And I think that this is what you and I are both looking for, is this objective truth.
Mhm.
So if the objective truth was that we actually went to the moon, but this truth that you're now introducing, which is, I'm just going to call it subjective for right now,
Sure.
and so you convince people that this never happened, that this objective truth is not objectively true, it's actually false.
Mhm.
What negative consequences do you think would possibly happen from that?
Hmm. Good question.
Hmm.
Um, well, I'm not trying to avoid answering the question. I'm gonna try and
It's a tough
process it
one.
out loud here.
Hmm.
Um, I have ADHD, so it's hard. I might get off on a trail, so feel free to stop me if I do. But
Okay.
um, yeah, to me, it's very possible that we went to the moon, and that's fine. I've seen a lot of evidence as to the contrary. things that have convinced me, that's fine. I think that it's the most important thing is that people treat other people respectfully, and the people who believe this aren't being treated respectfully. Uh, so your question is, what might this hurt if I do it and I'm wrong? Which again, I'm not wrong, because I'm not saying that we didn't go to the moon. People can come to the conclusion that they want to, and that's my goal, is to not to try and convince people that I'm right. My goal is to say, here's this and here's that. No, you decide. So it's not my responsibility to tell you what to think. If you watch this movie and I say, here's why some people think that we didn't go to the moon, here's why some people think we did, and your conclusion is Jews are terrible people, that's on you. Like, if you joke, I'm just giving an extreme here.
Okay. I was wondering where that came from.
No. Just giving an extreme example. Like, if you can't control how conclusions that you come to, so it's not my fault necessarily if you take some other meaning out of what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is not convince you that we did or didn't go to the moon. I'm trying to convince you that people are people, and certain people believe different things, and this is why, and it's fine. It's okay. It's okay to be an open-minded, free thinker, and to future generations, my main goal is to help people stop attacking each other, to stop making things polar opposites. And like, I'm trying to approach this as humbly as possible, because that's really all that matters to me, is that people just chill the fuck out. Like, treat people like humans, because we're all trying to figure this stuff out together. My goal isn't to convince you that we didn't go to the moon. So if there are negative ramifications, whoops, I don't know. what okay. Like, right. What those could possibly be. I mean, it's not like I'm making a, Sandy Hook was a fake thing, now go attack, like an Alex Jones type of thing where people go and attack Sandy Hook victim parents and stuff like that. Like, I don't think anybody's going to go out and shoot an astronaut because I said, hey, let's look at this stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, it's possible, but
let's hope not.
Right. Yeah, anything is possible. But I'm not going to feel personally responsible, because that wasn't my intention. I'm not going to feel responsible for you coming to a crazy conclusion.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, Dan, I understand that. I understand that, Dan. Yeah. But it sounds kind of like you're putting this caveat in there, like, so you have plausible deniability. I mean,
that's possible.
I have to, for myself, I have to take a certain amount of responsibility. If I come onto YouTube and I only have, like, 2,000 subscribers or whatever, if I come onto YouTube and I say something that is inaccurate, if I say something that is false or defamatory to someone, that can have consequences, because people could run on this information, and I've been wrong before. People in my chat who are here right now have corrected me. I've made mistakes, and they've pointed it out to me. But if I said something that was not actually accurate, and it was false, and it was something that might affect a great deal of people and really have an effect on them, like it may change their concept of something so drastically that they become angry.
Sure.
Yeah, I do have responsibility for that, because I was giving the wrong information. And if, maybe they're not going to go out and do something crazy, but they might start denying other things. They might
even if you're giving
vaccines aren't helpful. They're causing autism, and then they might start believing other things. So I actually disagree with people who say that there's no negative consequences to false information. There's very
there
serious.
There can be negative consequences to.
Exactly.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
There can be negative.
Go ahead.
I'll let you finish.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
There can be negative consequences to actual information too. Like I said, like, you come out and you say, I'm not attacking you or anything, so please don't take it that way. But okay. Like, when you're talking about, like, Bill Schneebel and stuff like that, and you're saying this guy is wrong, you could be telling complete truths, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to have negative consequences. Doesn't mean that maybe somebody's like, yeah, you're right. He is a liar. I'm going to go kill him. Like, it
Hmm?
doesn't matter whether or not the information is true or false. Because it could be, you could say Bill Schneblin is a garbage human, but I love him and we should love him. And then somebody else could hear that and say, well, he said that he's a bad guy, so I need to go kill him. It doesn't matter if it's true or false because they chose to do with it what they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, okay, that's valid. I can understand that. Yeah. So even if you revealed the truth about a person, that could have negative consequences. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. 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 I can definitely agree with you on that. Yeah.
Hmm.
But what I was saying earlier was that these misinformation, wrong information,
Hmm.
can have negative consequences. Doesn't always,
Sure.
but it can have negative consequences because people can start beginning to question other things. And I actually, maybe I have a biased, skewed perspective of my perception of, YouTube and Twitter.
Hmm.
Well, mostly YouTube, let's say. I do see a lot of people like believing nonsense, and
Sure.
maybe it's not a drastic thing, but it's a little bit of nonsense that they'll believe, and they start picking up little other
Hmm.
bits, and then they start, I think that then they kind of start going down this people call it a rabbit hole or
Sure.
whatever, and they do kind of start questioning a lot of things, and I think that can have negative consequences. That was my whole point about that, is that I have to make sure that whatever I'm saying is accurate. Like if I'm going to accuse Bill Schnoebelen of lying about summoning a demon in the garage where he saw this guy being sucked into it and disappeared, and they never filed a police report or anything like that, it's like,
Hmm.
okay.
Right.
If anything, you witnessed someone being kidnapped, whether it was
Right.
by a demonic force or
Sure.
whatever. So yeah, so there's bullshit information out there that I think does have negative consequences. But yeah, people are crazy, and they could run with even accurate
Hmm.
information, I guess.
Right.
Um, but okay, well let's move on to Pizzagate. This
Okay.
should be fun. Now, before we
Sure.
move into this new topic, do you want to take a break? Do you want to go to the restroom? I actually need to maybe step out for like 2 minutes,
Sure.
use the
Yeah, that's
restroom,
fine.
get a glass of water, and come back. So, um, is that all right with you?
Yeah,
We'll
that
take a
works for
little
me.
break. Okay. So we'll
Absolutely.
take like what, 5 minutes? Okay.
Yep. That works.
Yeah. Okay. All
Grab a
right.
drink.
So everybody in chat, we're just going to take a little. I'm going to turn my camera off and my mic off, and we're going to take like 5 minutes. I might come back a little early, but I just need to use the restroom and get a drink. So I'll be right back.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, I am back. It's cold here. All right. Let's see. You're back, man, Dan?
I'm good.
All right, cool. Cool.
Grabbed a beer if we're going to talk Pizzagate.
Uh-oh. Okay. So, so yeah, I appreciate, I'm really enjoying talking with you. So I apologize if I'm aggressive, maybe not aggressive isn't the right term, but if I'm if I'm challenging your
I love it. I love all of
challenging
it.
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Like I always say on my show, like I'm not, unlike most conspiracy theorists, quote unquote. I'm not, I'm not looking to, I'm not looking for people who prove me right. I'm looking to find out what the truth is. That's all there is to it. Like I don't care if I'm wrong. It's fine. Especially as we get to Pizzagate, you're gonna find. I hope that I am wrong. Like
Mm,
I 100% hope that I'm wrong. And if you can convince me that I'm wrong, then absolutely, by all means, please do, because I hope that there is no validity to this this theory or this whatever in any aspect whatsoever. So
okay. Okay. Well, good.
mm,
Well, I just wanted
I
to put
take
that
no
out there
offense to
because
anything that you said at all. So
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's don't take it personal. I'm just really
not at all.
challenging why you would think certain things, and and then the consequences
Sure,
of our beliefs too. So
sure.
let's take a quick sip here. Here we go. All right. So let's see. Because I know, for my understanding, there's several layers of Pizzagate.
Mhm.
So why don't you just kind of like, why don't you just give what you believe happened, and then maybe we can go from there.
I wish I could. I mean, honestly,
Or yeah.
like I haven't dug into this thing in a long time. I didn't know that this was on the docket for today. I'm
I'm
the
sorry.
furthest
I
thing
mean,
from an expert on it.
is it something you want to talk about, or do you want to save it for
We
another time?
we can whatever you prefer. It's your show. I'm totally open to it. Like I would love for you to kind of break down at some point. It doesn't necessarily have to be now, but I would love for you to break down like some of the thoughts around it. I haven't dug into it in quite a while. I hate digging into it because
Right.
it's an ugly topic. But
It is.
um, wherever you want to go, I'm fine with it.
Okay, well, how about this? I'll start it off. So I'll tell
Sure.
you my understanding of it.
Hmm.
So my understanding of it is there was the WikiLeaks emails.
Right.
So the WikiLeaks emails got out, and people started going through them, and there was a lot of them. There was a lot of them, but there was like a handful that most people picked out, and
Hmm.
you know they saw things in there about like pizza, and
Yeah.
why did they spend so much money on pizza and hot dogs, and some of these emails that they didn't have any context for. So they're taking the email, they're reading the email, and they're reading into the email without
Sure.
context, because obviously if you're spending like tens of thousands of dollars on hot dogs and pizza, what's the context for that?
Right. Right.
um, so there was a lot of context, and then people began to like wonder about that, and there was already
Hmm.
this idea that Hillary and the DNC or whatever are, I don't know, running around drinking people's blood to prolong life or whatever it is that these some
Yep.
of these crazy people believe. So that was part of it, and then they said, oh well, this pizza place, Comet Pizza, and this area around here, these other businesses, they had, this one business had this symbol,
Hmm.
and they removed the symbol, but it's
Hmm.
part of the, I found this piece of paper or this PDF saying that the FBI claims it's a pedophile symbol.
Hmm.
And so they believed that. And then they said, oh, well, did you see some of the weird artwork that they have in Comet Pizza? And, the guy who runs Comet Pizzas, he's, I think he's gay. And they have transvestites that come in there and sing. And so
Hmm.
it just people started piling on more and more stuff. And they started getting this crazy idea that there was a basement. And there isn't a basement in Comet Pizza. Um, but they believed that there was a basement in there, and there were kids being held, and um, it just got crazy. And then
Hmm.
what's his name, the aide for Hillary Clinton. What's his name?
Podesta?
Huh?
John
Podesta.
Podesta?
Yes, John Podesta and his brother. His brother was friends with Marina Abramovich, and there's another email in there
Right.
between them. And then spirit cooking came up, and the idea is, oh,
Mhm.
what is spirit? Oh, spirit. Wait a sec. Spirit sounds kind of spooky. And so then they said, oh, well, did you see Marina Abramovich? She's painting with pig's blood, and she has all this shock stuff. Who's actually been doing it for several generations. She's
Right.
been doing this, but suddenly it's a shock to everybody.
Right.
And and she does this one thing where she talks about earthquake, drinking breast milk and earthquake nights, and and spirit cooking, and then they associated it with the rite of Phoenix and Aleister Crowley, and the cakes of light, and it just got out of hand. It just spiraled on, and more people started tacking on stuff. And one ability of conspiracy theorists is the ability to make connections. That's what they're really good at. It's like, well, this symbol sort of looks like this, so pink.
Yarn on the wall, connecting all the dots, and everything has to go together. Everything has to be related. Yes,
right,
absolutely.
exactly. And they will force connections. So that's my understanding of the whole quote unquote Pizzagate thing. I don't know if I left something out. I may have. I'm sure as we go along, we will find out what I'm missing. But so, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, I can put the dots together like the crazy conspiracy people and say, hey, there might be something there. I hope that there isn't something there. These emails, when we did our episode digging into the stuff, like it was just me and my brother digging into it for that episode. I didn't have like a quote unquote expert on the topic or anything. It was just us. Like our show is just looking at different things and saying, well, here's this and here's this. Like, what do you make of this? And we tried figuring out ways that these emails made any sense. We tried figuring out how, like, giving it the benefit of the doubt. I can't come up with any way that 30 whatever it was, I don't remember exactly, but all the multiple emails of like especially the one where it talks about saying like we're gonna have some kids, and it says their names and ages, and it says that they will be in the pool and stuff like that, like really creepy things where it's like I can't think of a way that this makes sense outside of what the quote unquote crazy conspiracy people are saying. So I hope that I'm wrong.
What was the creepy part of that email?
Well, let me see if I can pull it up, because like I said, it's been a while since I've dug into this, so I don't want to like misquote it and stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you can search for those if you know certain keywords. I mean, if you happen to know which number it is, that's the easiest, but not everybody remembers the number. I can't remember the numbers of them all.
Yeah, I don't have like a giant, documentation of why people are pedophiles.
I actually did. I downloaded the whole PDF thing of them, and I since had to upgrade my computer, so I think I deleted them. But, but there was a lot.
Right. It was something to the effect of, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but something to the effect of, we will be having 3 different names and 3 different ages, and they're like all 5, 6, 8-year-old age range, and it's like they will be in the pool, they'll be there for entertainment, they will be in the pool, guaranteed, or something like that. And I'm just like I can't think of a way that that's not alluding to something horrifying.
And what was the pool in reference to?
It just said that they will be in the pool, like it. To my understanding, well, the way that I would interpret that is
a prize pool.
No, like a swimming pool, like POOL.
I understand that, but what makes you think it was a swimming pool and not a prize pool?
Well, how would a prize pool make
sense? You have people who you have a pool of people who you were going to pull from.
Okay.
So like you could have a pool of people, and of those, and then you're going to take some people out of that pool.
Okay, but
you ever heard the term
why would you? Well, sure, but I'm saying, like, how does that make any more sense? Like, you're going to have these children come over, they're going to be in a pool of people, and you're going out of your way to make sure they know that they will definitely be in the pool this time. Why were the kids at this adult party, and why are we specifically talking about children in any way? Why are
Because
they entertainment?
human beings produce small children, and sometimes you can't just, or maybe it's a certain function where it's around the kids, and you want the kids to be there. You want the kids to have fun and play with each other, and you're kind of like the adults on the outside, and you're at that function too, but you know the kids are going to be safe. You don't have to worry about them.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Why? Yeah, but what? Okay, so this email, and you're saying that it was creepy. So what was creepy about the? I mean, it would be nice if we could pull it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to look for exactly. I don't necessarily want to type.
Right, I know exactly.
Children in pool.
Suddenly, the FBI like busts down your door while you're live. Let me see. Wiki emails plus pool. See if that comes up. WikiLeaks to Podesta emails. Let me see.
Sorry for the dead air.
Yeah, really, exactly. Yeah, not too fun. Yeah, I can't find it right now. But so okay, so you see an email. It says something in there that you perceive as creepy. What is your conclusion?
I mean, the conclusion, I feel like it seems to be alluding to these children were being used as entertainment, and they were having a party. Like if you do connect all the dots, which I mean, at some point, the fact that all the people that are involved in this, like these are all emails between the same group of people, and we're talking about different weird pizza parties and weird lingo that doesn't make any sense, and then you're talking about children being in a pool for entertainment. It seems like they're, being abused. It seems like they are part of this theory, this whole, I don't know, pedophile garbage stuff.
Okay. Okay. So okay, that's all right. I'm just trying to understand your trying to understand your thought process. So you see an email, and the email says something about kids in a pool. And so you immediately jump to the conclusion that this is a pedophile ring, or somehow I'm just
No.
Maybe I missed something there. What did I miss?
Sure. It's not like that's the one piece of evidence that I saw and said, there's pedophiles. I mean, that's just one piece of all of it. That's like I said, I don't have the notes here to go through all the different things, but all the things that you pointed out, that's why people have come to the conclusion that maybe there's something shady going on here because of these weird hot dog, pizza, cheese, pasta, ice cream, walnut, map, sauce, all these references that people have said. I haven't seen the FBI documentation that says that these are words that mean these codes, but there are people who have done a lot more research than I have that are pulling this stuff out and tying the things together, and it's hard to understand how if you put these things together, which they are, these things are all part of a thing, whether they're related or not, they're all emails back and forth between certain people, certain group of people. It seems hard to explain. I'm curious as to like your thoughts on Abramovich or whatever her name is, and the spirit cooking and stuff like that.
Marina Abramovich.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, let's get there. Let's get there. But let's just enjoy this journey here.
Sure. I love it. That's fine.
Yeah. So the Podesta emails you read, you know, they were leaked and they all came from, I believe, Hillary Clinton, right? They pretty much all came from her, so they were all related to her in some way.
Yeah,
Um,
they can all be tied
yeah.
around
So there
her.
were, I don't know, there were quite a few. There were like thousands of emails. There were thousands of emails, and then people
Hmm.
went through them and they picked out all these weird things, and so they brought this to our attention. I don't know, like, you know, like all the random emails that are probably like, did you do such and such? Yes, I did.
Right.
Okay, thank you. You know, and it's very simple, like, you know, work emails that you send back and forth to people. They're
Right.
really boring and mundane, but don't mean anything. But you know, sometimes, like I have a coworker who answers the phone, you know, Burger King, you know,
Hmm.
and in the email, sometimes people will throw in little stuff that, you know, only the person that they're contacting would really understand,
Sure.
or, you know what I mean? It's kind of like playful
Yeah.
context. It's still within a professional
Sure.
boundary. So
Hmm.
it doesn't. Like when I saw that, it was just like, okay. It didn't, there was no, I didn't go, oh my God, there's a pedophile ring. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that immediately jumped into my mind. It was like,
Sure.
okay, yeah. So the DNC probably has a lot of kids that come in and probably want to meet, you know, the president. You know, they want to see the White House or
Yep.
whatever. And, you know, they have pizza parties for them or whatever. So to me, it didn't, without all the other context, it didn't seem
Sure.
unusual to me. Absolutely not. There was nothing unusual about it. But
Hmm.
I did several videos on this and I
Hmm.
debunked it and I went through the Podesta emails and I
Okay.
offered alternatives for this. And, you know, it it wasn't that wasn't there was nothing really, like, it just didn't, there was nothing there. It was just words in an email and that's it, you
Okay.
know. So that's what I think about it. But for you, like a little alarm went off in your head. And you're like,
Sure.
this doesn't make any sense, or this sounds creepy to me.
Hmm.
So, okay. Um,
Yeah, and I'll definitely go watch your videos because, like I said, I'm not gonna like argue with you on a thing that I don't know about. I know some things, but I don't even have the things that I've even talked about. I don't even remember all of what they were because I'm not going to spend my whole life trying to, you know, this isn't my hill to die upon either. Like
right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I do care if there is something going on. Obviously, of course, I think we both agree. If there was any validity to this, then obviously, of course, it should be exposed. I hope
Yeah,
that there is.
and you know what? I bet you have much. I think you have more pull in, you know, the quote unquote some some aspect of the conspiracy community, like, you know, Thomas Dunn and other
Sure,
people like that.
sure.
Um, please do me this one favor. If they ever say something crazy like, you know, kids being kidnapped or murdered or something, tell them to please take it to the police. Please, you know what I mean? I mean, I
Right,
just, I watch these videos and they go, "Oh, I witnessed a murder," and it's like, you witnessed a murder and you're not fucking taking it to the police.
right.
I mean, I'm like sitting here just like, I'm fucking losing it over here. I'm like, what are
Yeah,
you nuts? If I
right.
see a crime, you know, to work, the first thing I do is call the police, like, or, you know, or be a witness to it because I want the perpetrator
Yeah.
to be caught. And
I
some
couldn't
of the,
agree more. And
yeah.
that's such like I've had Bill Schneblin or however he pronounces his last name on my show, and I'm like, I want to take you at your word. I want to be open minded and accept what you're saying as truth. But what? Like you killed
Right.
somebody or whatever? I don't remember exactly what he's saying. It's like, okay, so you're a
So
murderer or
you
you
just
witnessed
admitted you're
murder or
right.
something? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Like, there, regardless of whether or not you think vampires or Freemasons or whoever is running the world, you're talking about murder, man. Like, I
It's still a
agree with
crime.
you
It doesn't
100%.
matter who committed it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, because I've said the same thing. Like, if I ever found out that there was an actual, like, satanic cult running around kidnapping people and
Right.
murdering them, and I found out about it, I would call the police. You know, I'd call the FBI and I'd give them all the evidence. I'd say, this is where it was. This is what I saw. This, you know,
Right.
I every single little detail I knew about it, I would give to the police.
Yeah.
You know, and even there's, you know, there's the pagan community is much broader and wider right now, but, you know. we have people who come up with some crazy ass ideas and say some stupid things, and and we've had people in the community who are sexual predators. They there was I even did a video on this. There was a person who was convicted of molesting a child when on earlier in their life, and now the victim came forward, pressed charges, and I don't remember the case, all the details of the case, but they were reported to the police and they're in jail now. So that's how we should do things. If we see something that's illegal, report it to the police. It doesn't matter who it is. You know what I mean?
Whether you're a witch or a Catholic, if you're molesting children, let's take the proper legal means of stopping crime. And who cares about your religion? Like, stop crime.
Absolutely, absolutely. You want to get that person off the street, because if they did it once, chances are they're going to do it again and again and again and again. And if nobody's speaking up and reporting this to the police, it's going to keep happening. So this is the one thing, like whenever I see Thomas Dunn or Greg Reed or Carly Franz talking about these things, I'm just sitting there going, if this is real, and I always keep that in the back of my mind, like, if this is real, they need to take it to the police. And I'll even type it out. And I will have all these people comment back to me like, don't you understand that the police and the FBI and the CIA and blah, 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 they're all Freemasons, they're all paid shills. And it's like, I'm just sitting there
So
just
we're not going to try? We're just going to let it happen? What are you talking about?
Exactly. But
like,
anyhow,
even if all the police are bought and paid for and they're all Freemason Satanists or whatever, it's like, okay, but if somebody backed into your car, you'd call the cops.
Right.
You're gonna trust the evil Satanist policeman to come and write the other person a ticket, but you're not gonna call the cops when you find out that there's a murder. What are you talking about?
Exactly. And you're gonna come across a good cop. You're gonna come across a good cop who's actually gonna look into it. And if you can't, take it to the sheriff. I mean, there's places you can take it to. You can take it to. If something really happened and nobody's listening to you, you can keep taking it up the ranks. But anyhow, let's get back on the topic here. So the Marina Abramovich. So what was your question about that?
I'm just curious, like, to the lay person, if you hear about something like spirit cooking, yes, at first glance, it's like, what the hell is that all about? And I've like watched documentaries about her, and I'm an artist. I enjoy some of the things that she's doing. I think it's weird and compelling, and I'm not going to jump to, oh, she's a devil worshiper, she drinks blood, whatever. But the some of the stuff, it's like, I mean, you got to admit that some of the stuff that she's writing about and talking about, and Hillary Clinton being tied to her in ways, it's kind of like, I feel like if whether it's an art piece or not, if Hillary Clinton's going and taking part in this weird art piece of strange blood crap, like the people kind of should know about that, because
but I don't think Hillary Clinton actually went to any of her shows.
Okay. It was something in the emails seemed to allude to, it might not, I don't remember if it was Podesta or Hillary, but somebody asking them if they would be at the event or at the spirit cooking, basically.
Yeah, there was an email. There was an email from Marina Abramovich to it's not John Podesta, it's his brother. I forget her brother.
Tony?
His brother's Tony. Thank you, Tony Podesta. And Marina Abramovich says, "Are you going to be at the dinner tonight? Are you going to bring your brother?" She's talking about John Podesta. So that's I'm just wondering in my mind if I have those names reversed, but I don't think so. I think it was an email to Tony Podesta. And Marina Abramovich was asking if John Podesta is going to be at the dinner that night. So to me, that sounds perfectly normal. It's like if I had a friend over and I sent a friend, let's say I sent my sister an email and I said, hey, you know, I'm having a dinner tonight. You want to come over and join me? Oh, by the way, is your, you know, are you going to bring your girlfriend
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever?
Yeah, their
And
association with her in particular, I have no problem with that because maybe she does some weird art piece, whatever. But
well, she
uh,
does. I mean, that's the
well,
thing
yeah,
about Marina Abramovich.
absolutely
It's shock art.
right.
Yeah.
It's not about whether or not they had dinner with her. It's like if these people in high power are meeting up with this person, like Marina Abramovich, I always mispronounce her name, so whatever. The person, she she's even said like there's a quote from her that's like, well, if the spirit cooking is done on display for people to see, then it's just art. If it's done behind closed doors, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That's
Oh, it's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
fine.
I'm just doing a baseball because all these
Sure,
memories are rushing back to my.
sure.
So,
I, I mean,
okay, these.
her to my understanding, those are her words, and
Yeah,
it just
yes,
seems
they
strange.
yes, they are. Let me. All right. Okay.
Okay, tell me,
So
tell me your thoughts.
there was a Reddit thread by Marina Abramovich, and it was an AMA. It was an Ask Me Anything thing, and so people were asking Marina Abramovich all these questions. And this one person, they wrote, "I'm curious. What do you think about using using the occult in art? What do you think about that?" And this person, they spelled magic with a K, which to me rings a bell. Like, oh yeah, this person, chances are they're probably an occultist or they're interested
Sure.
in the occult. There's a lot of occult symbolism in art. You know, that's nothing new. The occult has had a great deal of influence on arts and entertainment. You know,
Hmm.
but not in the sense that they're like trying to mind control people, but
Sure.
just there's just symbolism. There's universal symbolism in the occult, and so obviously there's also universal
Hmm.
symbolism in art. You know, in architecture and all these things.
Hmm.
Um, so so Marina Abramovich responded back. She said, if you were doing it for yourself, you know what? Actually, let me pull it up because obviously I'm gonna be misquoting it, and that'll cause more problems. But she was answering a question from somebody who sounded to me like they were familiar with the occult, and Marina Abramovich was answering it from the perspective of an artist. And you, you have to you you have to you don't have to see it that way, but if you understand the context of it, what the person was asking,
Sure.
what she was saying, then you understand what she was saying.
Sure.
So let me get that part. Yeah, I did like 3 videos on this.
Yeah.
And ooh, here I do have to put this to emails, but I'm not going to open that up. That's a fucking. It's a 365 kilobyte WinZip file. I'm not going to open it right
Mm.
now. Let me see. This is probably very exciting for the audience to sit here and watch me going through my
Hey,
documents.
if they want to put themselves through this punishment, that's on them. They get to choose for themselves. It's a big X button that you can click if you're bored.
Yeah, right.
I'm enjoying it, so
Or
that's
maybe
all that
what you could
matters.
do is do a little song and dance while I'm doing this.
There you go.
Just kidding.
I'll make shadow puppets for them or something while we wait.
There you
I've got
go.
a
There you go.
harmonica here.
Hey, there you go.
I can play this.
Hey, let me whip out my harmonica and play a little tune. Um, but yeah, it was an AMA, and I need to clean up my. I have every single fucking video I've created here. I gotta clean it up. Let's see, where was it? It's Crazy Zone. Um,
While you're digging,
maybe here it is. Yeah, go ahead.
uh, well, yeah. I mean, my question for you would be like, respectfully, like, what would it take to convince you that you're incorrect? Like, what piece of evidence would you need to see to say, hey, all these things could, they could all be related to each other. There could be something nefarious here.
I would have to see the court documents.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, if somebody believed that there was a something nefarious happening in Comet Pizza or with Marina Abramovich, there would have to be enough evidence to charge her. And then if there's enough evidence to charge her, to then take her to court. And then as the court and the evidence is examined, because that's what a court is for. The court is for examining the evidence. If they examine the evidence and they determine that this was illegal, or this was nefarious, or this was wrong, and they were found guilty of whatever charges, then they're guilty.
Sure.
Everything else leading up to that point is a possibility. So that is what is needed for me to change my mind. And it's the same thing that happens with all these freaking videos that I do. If somebody produces a court document and says, yes, this person did this during some kind of a satanic ritual, then then I would concede, and I would say, okay, you know what, you're right. And so that's what it would take. I would have to see convincing evidence that would convince even a court judge. So I'm like skeptical, period. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like,
that's what I was gonna say. You're the ultimate skeptic until it's 100% innocent until proven guilty. 100%.
Absolutely. I've lost friends and I've pissed people off because they will make a claim and I will challenge it. You know, especially when it comes to certain public figures being accused of being racist or sexist or whatever, because I will
idea who you're talking about. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about like people like you know, Tommy Robinson and other people like this who get accused of things, but there's no hard evidence, in my opinion, to come to that conclusion. And then when I ask people for evidence, they're like, "Well, it's out there. Everybody says it." It's like, it's not evidence. That's just popular opinion. All right, I can't. Oh, wait here. Let me see. I'm trying to find it. I don't think I'm gonna find it. So let me do it this way. Let me go to Arena Homo Reddit AMA. Here it is. Here it is. So let me blow this up. All right, so I had to go online to find it. Now let me see if I can find a particular one.
Keep people entertained.
Here we are. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen here so everybody can take a look at what I'm looking at. And hopefully you'll be able to see it too. Okay, so you're probably looking at a bunch of videos.
Yep.
Can you see my screen where it says, where it looks like a Reddit page? Hello?
Yeah.
Dan?
Can you not hear me?
Uh-oh. Did I lose Dan?
I'm here. I can hear you.
Uh-oh.
What's going on? I can hear you.
Did I lose Dan?
Check. Check. Hello. Check.
Dan, you there?
I am here. Yes. I am here. I can hear you.
I don't hear you. I don't know what happened.
I'm still here.
Okay. Let me see. Boy, this is fun. So I just asked him if he hears me. Hopefully he knows how to use the text thing.
I don't.
You're gonna have to type in the oh man. Do you guys in chat hear me? Okay, okay, good. Okay, so he hears me. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so, um, okay. Oh, crud. Okay, so this is what it. So this is what. This is the one. It's Marina. So this is her Reddit, her AMA, and she says, "What place do you see the occult having within contemporary art? Can magic be made, not simply appropriated, performed?" So this person who's asking this question, K, spelled magic with a K, which to me makes it sound like it's somebody who's familiar with it. Maybe they're not an occultist, but they're at least familiar with it. Marina Abramovich responds, everything depends on which context you are doing what you are doing. If you are doing the occult magic, she doesn't spell it with a K, in the context of art or in a gallery, then it is the art. If you are doing it in a different context, in spiritual circles or a private house or on TV shows, it is not art. The intention, the context for what is made and where it is made defines what art is or not. So, from her point of view, she is talking about art. The other person who asked the question was talking about the occult and magic. And so my conclusion to this is it doesn't convince me that she is practicing magic or she's practicing the occult. She's just talking about art and expression. And like I mentioned earlier, it's very difficult to separate symbolism and symbolic language out of art. It's very, very difficult because, you know, language is one of our forms of communication, but we have body language, we have expression, we have color, there's all kinds of ways of communicating. So anyhow, let me shut up on this and see if I can hear you again,
Hello, hello.
Dan.
Check, check, check.
So
Can you
I'm
hear
not
me?
hearing you, Dan. So I don't know what's
Hmm.
going on. I don't know if maybe when I was sharing the screen that I did something with the mic. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Can
Strange.
you try saying something because I can't hear you?
Check, check, check. 1, 2.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you.
Hmm.
Dan is speaking. Oh, let me see.
Check, check, check.
Do you people in chat hear him?
People in chat, do you hear me?
Okay, you hear
1, 2.
him. Okay, so what is going on? So I just muted you. Let me unmute you. This is weird. It all happened when I shared my screen.
Check 1, 2. Check, check.
Okay. Try
Hello?
turning if you have like a button on your microphone, try maybe turning your microphone off and on again. You
I
don't
have
have a
no
button?
button.
Okay. Um, that is bizarre. They can hear you. I can't hear you. That is bizarre. Let me
So I can talk all sorts of trash about Ken behind his back, and he won't even know what I'm
that
saying.
is bizarre. Let me try.
Check, check, check. Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Okay, no, you're still.
Hmm.
Huh. That is bizarre. Why is it doing that?
Check, check, check.
Is bizarre. Huh. Let me see.
I can fill this whole video with me playing harmonica now. He doesn't
He's
even know.
playing the harmonica for people. Baked Jesus says he's talking trash behind now. Yeah, Dan, if you want to make some plugs at me, now is a good time because I won't find out about this until later on when people tell me. So,
I'll talk trash.
let me see. I think I might have to, if I exit and come back, I think it'll, I don't know what'll happen. That's strange. Let me play around a little bit more.
Check.
And we'll do that as a last resort.
Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
I do. Check.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Let's see. That's the hearing part. We go for the speakers. And now let me change them back.
Check.
Huh. Okay, I still don't hear you.
Hello? Huh.
This is bizarre. I think it happened when I shared the screen. I think it's probably a bug in Google Hangouts.
Probably.
Okay, I still don't hear you.
It's the CIA. The CIA is onto us. They're trying to keep Ken from knowing what I have to say. Just silencing me.
Let me see. Let me huh. This is bizarre.
You guys should just tell Ken that I'm saying all sorts of terrible things about witchcraft and that I'm preaching to you, telling you about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ or something.
This is strange. I also notice on my end that the playback is jammed. So let's do this. Let me redo this. Let me exit, and I'll invite you, back to a new Hangout. I think is the best way. So people in chat, I'm going to end the stream, go to my channel, and I'm going to start a new one. So, all right. Okay. We're good? Okay.